This is a video about I'm not sure what. I'll find out when I finish it. It's about um, uh, a pattern in my early life that I found in many, many other people's lives, even though none of us cooperated about or talked about this pattern or even realized it until very late, much later in life than after the pattern occurred. And I have no explanation for why a lot of geographically and otherwise separate people should follow a similar pattern early in their lives, but maybe it's human curiosity. I studied how my own mind worked because I outscored average MIT students by a huge number, more than 55 points, second term freshman year, and I had no idea how I did that. My professors were just as irritated and astonished by that as I was. And we were all irritated that none of us had an explanation of how I had done that. And so I actually started going around Harvard, MIT, and Wellesley and asking who the smartest people were and could I talk to them about how they think. So I could find out what makes them think better than me and write it down in a book, which I did. I studied cognitive linguistics, initially led by Noam Chomsky, and then a lot of younger, smarter graduate students. I studied artificial intelligence under Marvin Minsky and then Project Mac under Carl Hewitt, Drew McDermott, and graduate students there. I studied the psychology of learning at MIT under Salvador Luria and a bunch of other people who were interested in it. That's step one. Then step two, I got a practice teaching job at Weston Public Schools, where most of the Harvard MIT faculty send their kids. And many years, almost half of the years, for the last 50 years, it places the most kids in Stanford and Harvard. And I was the first MIT student allowed to practice teach there. And I built a metaphoric thought assessment instrument under the direction of Bruce McDonald and used it to help make the students of Weston more creative people in the way they thought. Then I ended up building expert systems of some of the world's greatest designers, 41 of them if you include expert system projects of employees of mine that I managed. We had detailed, I'm talking about 300-400 page books of protocols of what was going on every 15 seconds in the minds of these designers that they handled some case that we videotaped. That's number three. Number four is I designed mass workshop events. Typically 450 parallel workshops whose partial products combined in various ways to make a huge, impressive overall product. 2,000 people working together for 30 days, 16 hours a day. And then smaller workshops of 3 days with 200 people working together for 3 days for 12 hours a day. I designed the workshop procedures of those workshops, and I became world-renowned within my NGO organization as the best, most realistic designer of such procedures, translating world expert procedures into a format that ordinary people could do very well and actually preserve the value in the expert procedure. Fifth was I then went to Japan and studied the external, out-of-the-mind production process and design process, business processes in Japanese quality programs. And I applied to that what I had already learned about cognitive linguistics, how the mind worked, and metaphorical thought and how the mind creates, and expert design protocols from the experts who's designers for whom I build expert systems, and the procedures of mass workshops that I learned. And then I applied that to total quality process design in Matsushita and Sekisui in Japan. Won the Deming Prize for Sekisui with them. Number six, I then built software designed, application software designed to automatically extract gradually from use expertise from the users of the software application. So that the software became smarter and smarter and also learned better how to support expert procedures that the the user of the software tried to use the software for. I was then challenged by a number of government intelligence agency consult problems. Actually, I wasn't challenged by them. I solved all the the intelligence agency problems given to me instantly over lunch because I had already, the problem I had was so simple that I already had the solution 10 years earlier, and it was a very abstract thing that I had learned 10 years earlier for myself. Nobody in the world needed it until I ran into CIA or the NSA and found out that there are some people working on such weird problems they actually need the same kind of stuff I'm working on. So I did some really abstruse government agency consults and some really powerful business consults that again involved designing now expert procedures after years and years of studying how the mind works. So here, you could take this, and I found this in a number of people's lives, totally unrelated to me. What if you study how your own mind achieves top performances? What if you study how other people's minds do top mental performances? What if you study research itself as your PhD dissertation, which is what I did? What if you get outside your own culture and nation and profession to study how outside frameworks would improve what's inside your own culture? What if you research national, gender, profession, neuroses, and assumptions and habits that are limiting a mental performance? What if you study world best total quality methods of designing how to get work done externally outside you? What if you then take those quality principles and apply them to cognitive processes in the mind to improve how the mind works? What if you invent new tools and interfaces to multiply the power of the thought inside your brain and to multiply the power of processes of combining people's thoughts in work processes outside the brain? You end up inventing new tools for old ways of thinking, new tools for new ways of thinking, and then combining those to create and pioneer totally new realms of cognition and idea handling. Now, like I say, this would be boring and narcissistic if it were just me, but I run into a bunch of people who have evolved quite similarly to this in totally different career paths and industries. And so there's something general in our time that's moving, creates this path and flow of lives and work. I have no idea what the name of it is.